Feeling off but can't pinpoint why? Listen, if you are cruising past 35, 40 years old and you find your energy levels dropping or it's hard to lose weight, it might be time to zoom in on your blood sugar levels. Surprise! They influence more than just your health. They're the secret sauce to your mood and vitality, too. This week on the Rev Your Metabolism podcast, join me and blood sugar guru Michelle as we unpack the sneaky signs of blood sugar issues and why they're the culprits behind those stubborn pounds. Whether you're navigating the waters of type 2 diabetes, flirting a little here with pre-diabetes, or you just want to learn some healthier living hacks, this episode, Rever, it's your golden ticket. So let's get into this chat for a treasure trove of insights that promise to recharge your health and your wellness story. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome to Rev Your Metabolism with Alicia Murphy. I'm Alicia, your host, creator of Stress Monkey Fitness, the REV method, and your go-to health coach for being super fit and unstoppable after 40. With 15 years of rocking the fitness and nutrition industry, plus overseeing the wellness program for a major shoe company, I'm here to share my knowledge with you. Are you ready to join me on an exciting journey to restore your metabolism, boost your health, and turn back the aging clock? On this podcast, we'll unlock the secrets to boundless energy, burning more fat naturally, and feeling confident in your own skin. Get ready to soak up simple yet powerful strategies that will transform your health and fitness game. These tips will be a game changer, so hang on to your hats and glasses. And do not forget to hit that follow button so you won't miss any of our amazing tips and tricks. All right, let's rev it up. Hey there, Revers. It's me, Alicia. I'm so happy you're here, and I'm really, really excited because, first of all, this is my first interview for the Rev Your Metabolism podcast. Yes. And my special guest is Michelle, my buddy Michelle, and I was so happy that she accepted my request to be on the podcast because I was like, oh my God, she has so many cool things that my Revers would love to learn about. And Michelle and I really connect because we're both kind of nerds and that we love to learn new science, all the newest research coming out about all ways to be fit, to be healthy, but specifically we talk a lot about blood sugar. So you guys are going to learn so much from her today. Michelle! Yes.
Hey, Alicia, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. So I have to tell you, Michelle, that I always tell the Revers, throw on some shoes. Let's walk and talk. Can't quite figure out how to do that, though, Revers, when I am doing a podcast interview. So you, though, Rever, have no excuse. Put on your shoes and get out there and walk while we talk, because you are going to learn some huge knowledge bombs today. All right, so get ready. Here we go. Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what it is you do?
Yes. So I've been a nurse for 14 years. And my specialty was in wound care. As you can imagine, I worked with a lot of type 2 diabetic patients. I'm also a personal trainer. And 4 years ago, I started my health coaching business, Bellaby Health. I help type 2 diabetic patients get off medication. We use food as medicine. And I help them reverse type 2 diabetes to live a long, healthy, and happy life.
I love that. And Revers, to you listening right now, I want to make sure that you understand if you're somebody who has blood sugar issues, if you're somebody who has type 2 diabetes, or maybe your parents have type 2 diabetes and you're trying to be preventative, or maybe you just really want to learn how to be very fit, very healthy, feel good, have energy, this episode is going to be for you. So I just want to make sure, just because you don't have type 2 diabetes doesn't mean you're not going to learn a lot about how to be your best self. So Michelle is an expert in all of these things. So get ready, buckle up. This is going to be a good one. Michelle, where did you grow up?
So I was born in Tehran, Iran. I moved to the US when I was 14 years old. And don't ask me how old I am now. No, I'm just kidding. I plan to be 21 forever. No,
That's good. That's a smart move. Was it hard, like adjusting to the American way of life when you moved here?
definitely. It was very hard. Yes.
Yeah.
The English you learn over there is very different than the English they speak here. So for me, writing and reading was so easy, but speaking was very hard.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you and I talk a lot about this topic that we're going to talk about today. And it's so funny because we'll text each other. Did you hear this latest episode of Peter and Tia The Drive? Did you hear the Huberman podcast? Like, we are constantly exchanging information. And I love that I have a buddy geek that I can, talk to about all these things. And so I know you're really, really passionate about this topic. But tell us I want the Revers to know why. Where does this passion come from?
Oh my God, Alicia, I absolutely love what I do. As a nurse, all I was doing was treating symptoms, but I'm making a difference in my client's life. Not only that, is making a difference for the whole family and the next generation.
Yeah.
So, and I have to thank my mom for that. I mean, the story, many years ago, she was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And I just could not imagine my mom going through what I was seeing with my patients every single day at work. So I ordered every single book I could find about type 2 diabetes. I looked at every single research, and I soon realized as a nurse how much I didn't know and how little I learned at nursing school. And for so long, I was like giving a wrong advice to my patient. And even now, so many people in healthcare are giving so many wrong advice that's making the patient's diabetes worse and not any better. And I have to thank my mom for that. We were able to reverse her type 2 diabetes in just 3 months. She's been off medication for so many years now. She looks better, she feels better. And because of her, I've been able to help so many people do the same. So it's very rewarding.
Okay, Revers, I'm making sure you heard that she was able to help her mom reverse her type 2 diabetes in just 3 months. And I think the big problem is, and we're going to get to this later on, what I have a lot of people come to me and say is, Alicia, my doctor told me that my blood sugar is not on point, it's off, whatever. And they said, just watch that, or eat better, or exercise. And that's not, I think most of the time the doctors don't really know the right advice to give. So we're going to dig into that later in this interview, because I want you to walk away from this episode with, okay, what am I supposed to do then if I have blood sugar issues? So hang on for that. It's coming your way. But the first thing we have to do, so Revers, it's time for fact or fiction. Michelle, we play a game called Fact or Fiction, and I just make a statement, and then the Revers, while they're out walking, they're just going to say if it's a fact or a fiction.
I love this.
It's fun. It's fun. Okay. So here we go. Fact or fiction. Brain fog, feeling lethargic, feeling sleepy after you eat a meal. Those can all be symptoms of blood sugar issues. Is that fact or fiction? That is a fact. That is a fact. This is what worries me, is when your blood sugar is either too high or too low, it absolutely impacts the way you feel, which we will talk about. But I think a lot of times people don't realize the connection between these two things. So it's something to start to be aware of. And before we get into this anymore, what I'd like, Michelle, is if you could explain to the Revers, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page exactly what type 2 diabetes means. So, like, what is it exactly and how does it happen in the first place?
I'm so happy you're asking this question because we're doing such a bad job, like you said, at the doctor's office, explaining that to the patient. When I meet with a client, it's the first question I ask. And some of my clients, they've been diagnosed for 10, 15, 20 years, and they can't answer that. And like, how can you know you're living with this condition? And if you don't know what it is, how can you take the right step toward, making it better or treating it?
Right.
So I like to explain, like this simplest way I like to explain this is like, just imagine if your body is like a car and the gas you put in a car is a fuel you put in the body. Now in type 2 diabetes, the body, there's something not able to regulate the fuel properly. You eat the food, there's some hormonal changes that happen in the body, your organs get ready to metabolize the incoming fuel. And there's two primary sources of energy that your body is able to burn. One is fat, which is fatty acid, and sugar, which is glucose. Now, glucose molecule can only get inside the cell with a special key. And that key is called insulin, which is produced by your pancreas. Now, in type 2 diabetes, your pancreas is still making insulin. As a matter of fact, there's too much insulin in the body at that point, but your cells are not responding properly to it. It's like the lock is jammed. You have the key, it just doesn't work. And that leads to having high blood sugar. And over time, having high blood sugar can lead to so many complications. Unlike any other disease, type 2 diabetes affects every single organ in your body. It affects your eyes, your brain, your heart, your nerves, everything. And the consequence of having high blood sugar is devastating. So if there's one thing I want your listeners to remember from our conversation today is do not ignore elevated blood sugar.
Right. Exactly. And so one thing that I wanted to point out too from what you said is the pancreas with type 2 diabetes is actually making too much insulin, and eventually this can lead to insulin resistance, right? Because it's like your cells are OD'd and they're like, enough, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay. And so I know that if you have if you have blood sugar issues, if you're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, does that then mean that you are insulin resistant?
Definitely. The underlying problem of type 2 diabetes is insulin resistant.
Right.
So blood sugar is just the symptoms of type 2 diabetes. But right now, the way we are treating type 2 diabetes is just with medication to mask the symptoms. We are not really, fixing the underlying problem.
Right. Right.
And all medication does is just mask the problem while the diabetes is getting worse and worse and worse. That's why we see so many patients, they start with one medication, and then a few months, a few years, and then they have blood pressure medication, cholesterol medication, and they end up with insulin.
And trust me, you do not want to get to that point, right, where you're insulin dependent. It's a train wreck. And the other thing I wanted to mention too is some people are to a point where they probably should be on like something like metformin, but I think that the mindset shift here is not treating it as that is what is going to help you, treating it as a temporary tool, right?
Exactly.
While you're getting everything under control. Because I know that some people think, oh, well, I'm taking metformin or I'm taking whatever, and that fixes it. No, right?
Yes,
That's supposed to be an aid while you're fixing your lifestyle, your diet, your stress, all those things.
And remember, every medication comes with a side effect. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. See, Revers, aren't you happy she's here? Some good stuff. So that was type 2 diabetes. Explain what pre-diabetes means.
Okay, so I was just looking at some scary numbers the other day. More than 1 out of 3 people have pre-diabetes, and 80% of those people don't even know they have pre-diabetes. I
Right.
mean, this is like,
Yeah.
this is crazy to me. So pre-diabetes is where your blood sugar is already higher than normal level. Now, you could be having some symptoms as well. You could be having energy fluctuation throughout the day, having, post food carb coma after you eat,
Right.
skin condition, having a really hard time losing weight, anxiety, headaches. But the crazy part is that you could not even have any of these symptoms. We see people that when you look at them, they look healthy, they look fit. And then when we look at it, their blood sugar is in a pre-diabetes range.
Right. I know several people who you would be blown away if you could see them and then they're diagnosed with pre-diabetes and they look extremely fit, and they're getting diagnosed with pre-diabetes. And we're going to talk about that too and why that's happening. But one thing I want to mention that I want to go back to what Michelle just said. She said, if you're having a hard time losing weight, and especially as we're getting older, the odds of us having blood sugar issues is higher. And if you're having a hard time losing weight despite counting calories and all those things, you need to look towards your blood sugar because that could absolutely, right, trigger the way your metabolism works.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I just want you to realize all these other things too, obviously are very important, but it does play a role in fat loss and fat gain as well.
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay. So pre-diabetes is basically the beginning stages of type 2.
At this point, the patient has already gone from being insulin resistant. Now we are in a second stage, which is pre-diabetes.
Okay. Okay. So Revers, again, what she's saying is if you are pre-diabetic, you are insulin resistant. So this is something that we should I think all of us should try to be more. So the opposite, Rever, of insulin resistant, we call it being insulin sensitive. And I think that everybody should strive to be more insulin sensitive. Don't you think, Michelle?
100%. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's time for another fact or fiction.
This is really fun. I love this.
See? Fact or fiction. Okay, here we go. Fact or fiction. Type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes are pretty much the same disease. Is that fact or fiction? And Revers, if you've been with me a while, you better know the answer to this. That is a big fat fiction. Fiction. Type 1 and type 2. Yes, they're both a form of diabetes, but the mechanisms that cause it are very different. And I want Michelle to explain to us, if you don't mind, what's the difference between type 1 diabetes, which is what I have, Revers, and type 2 diabetes?
Yes. So even though they both sound the same, they're totally different. So type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease, and normally patients are diagnosed during childhood, but that doesn't happen all the time. I actually know a lady who was 55 years old when she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
Oh my gosh, and I thought I was old at 40.
So no, so you can be diagnosed at any age.
Wow.
But in type 1 diabetes, the pancreas, there's a lack of insulin, severe lack of insulin in the body. Now, type 2 diabetes, which is about 90 to 95% of diabetes worldwide, is a dietary disease. And the underlying problem is, as we mentioned, insulin resistant and hyperinsulinemia, which just means there's too much insulin in the body.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing that I try to explain to people when they ask me about my diabetes. I just tell them my pancreas doesn't make insulin. So that's why it's on my stomach. So I can't show you right now, Revers, but because this is my first video podcast, Michelle. I always just do audio. So
Oh, lucky me. I'm so
On,
honored.
I know. Oh, and you guys, this Michelle's my first interview, and I'm so happy that it's her because I'm a little nervous, but because it's Michelle, it really helps me. So cut me some slack on this interview, Revers. Okay. But anyways, I do have a pump. It's a little bit bigger than this, and it has insulin inside it.
Mhm.
So that's how I get my insulin. And so I'm glad that Michelle explained that because typically, I wish that type 1 was called something completely different, honestly.
I totally agree with you. Yes.
But whatever. Anyways, moving on, I want to ask you, what do you think are the biggest myths when it comes to type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetes?
The biggest one, let me think of it. So I think the biggest one is that you're like, once you're diagnosed, that's it. This is a chronic disease and there's nothing you can do about it. But I'm here to tell you, this is what all my business is about, to empower you. You have control, you have the power. You can reverse it. You can do something about this. You can get off medication. You can use food as medicine here to
I love
heal
that.
your body so you can reverse type 2 diabetes. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
I love that so much because it's incredible the power that we have in the way that we eat, in the way that we live our lives. And I have to say, is it easy? Not in the beginning. It's not. Like, let's face it, making change is hard. No matter what kind of change you're trying to make, it's going to be hard. But the alternative is much worse.
Yeah, I promise you this is worth it. I promise you this is worth it. Yes.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think that, you know, I know you and I have both used this a lot with our coaching, but the why has to be so strong, obviously, because you could do anything if you really want to. You can literally do anything. So I just want to throw that out there because I think I was just talking to my friend the other day and I was telling her, you know, back in the day, even up until like the 70s and 80s, there were things built into our lifestyle that helped to keep us healthy.
Mhm.
And, how much movement we got and the lack of constant screens and electronics. And yes, I know that there was fast food and stuff, but even the food quality was still better back then. And now it's like you could kind of just like live life like normal and still be pretty healthy. And in the last, 30 years or so, it's like if you just go with the flow, you're gonna probably be unhealthy. You kind of have to like go against what everybody's doing. So I get it that it's hard, but at the same time, it feels so much better. You have more energy, you're healthy, and especially for those of you with kids or grandkids, they don't do what you tell them to do, they do what they see you doing, right?
Yes.
So
I-
I just want to throw that out there because I'm sure Michelle, you've heard it too. I have a lot of people that, oh, I don't get home till 6, so it's hard for me to eat healthy or whatever. I'm busy. But this is your health, and there's nothing more important. I would say you need to be health. Your health needs to be more important even than your family. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's because if you're not healthy, then you're useless to them. So,
exactly. Yes.
right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, 100%. And just to add something to the why, because this is so important. This is the one thing, like the first thing I talk to my clients. You have to have a strong why because you're not going to be motivated every single day.
Right.
Sometimes, if you have a strong why, if you have a goal, that's what's going to keep you out of, get you up early in the morning, even when you don't want to. So very important for people to, if they want to reverse their type 2 diabetes, if they want to get their blood sugar under control, just 20 minutes, put 20 minutes aside, sit down, write down, your goal and why you're trying to reach that goal.
Yeah.
Really.
It's really powerful. And Revers too, your why it's got to be emotional, like,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? When you
Yeah.
feel like, ooh,
Mhm.
that's that's the good why. Okay. I love this. So, can you explain to the revers what an A1C measures? Because when I talk about that, most people have no idea what I'm talking about and have never heard of that before.
Yeah, so all it means, I mean, you're probably going to see it on your test as HbA1c, is hemoglobin A1c. It just gives you the average of your blood sugar through a 3-month period. That's all.
Right.
That's all it is. Yeah, and normal, should we talk about what the normal
Yeah,
is?
please. Yes.
So a normal A1C is below 5.6, 5.7 to 6.4 is pre-diabetes, and anything over 6.5 is considered type 2 diabetes.
Okay. I love that. And I think when I try to explain this to people, I think knowing what your A1C is so important, because when you go in and get your lab work done, your blood work, and Rever, if you haven't had your blood work done in the last year, can you please do me a favor and go
Yeah.
get it done? Right?
Yes, please.
It's so important. You need to know what's going on under the hood, man. Okay. So the problem I have with the fasting blood sugar when you go get blood drawn
Yes.
is there's so many things that could impact the blood sugar when you're fasted, right? If you're stressed out, if you didn't sleep well, what you ate the night before. So
Definitely.
just because I have a lot of people say, oh, but my fasting blood sugar was 92, whatever. But then when they look at their A1C, they're in the pre-diabetes area. So you can't, I don't like people to rely on the fasted blood sugar from one day's picture, because and your fasted blood sugar could also be maybe higher than normal that day, depending on, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, I agree
A1C is,
100%.
yeah, okay. See, Michelle. Okay. And so we want to look at the A1C. What's like one or two other important markers when we're looking at our blood work that when it comes to type 2 diabetes? I want to be clear about that, or pre-diabetes.
I do think that fasted blood sugar is important as well, but maybe, like you said, not just one time, but maybe somebody can check. But you said 92. I just want to make sure, when you go to your doctor's office, they're going to say 70 to 100 is normal. But if your blood sugar is already between 90 to 100, this is your wake-up call. This is a red flag that you need to make changes now, because your blood sugar is starting to creep up.
Yep. I love that you said that, because I have a friend who is a doctor, and hopefully she doesn't listen to this episode. She probably won't know whatever. And I told her, somebody had told me in front of her that their blood sugar was 102 fasted.
Okay.
And I said, I don't like that. You need to work on that. That worries me. I would never want it to be even over 100.
Yes.
And she said, that's not really any cause for concern quite yet. And she's a doctor. And I was like,
Yeah.
So 70 to 90, Rever, is what we're shooting for when you get that blasted blood work in.
You want to be in optimal health level, so you're not in any risk whatsoever.
Okay. That's good to know. What else would be like a red flag on blood work?
Another one that I really want to talk about, and it's so important, is your liver enzyme.
Okay.
Your AST and your ALT, that's what they're under. And this, like 90% of people who have type 2 diabetes have fatty liver. As a matter of fact, fatty liver happens 10 years prior for someone who's diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. So this gives us a lot of information.
Wow. And you know what I want to say here is, and Michelle, you let me know if like I'm saying this right, but usually when somebody tells me that they're insulin resistant, or that they have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, high triglycerides, I always say, your body has a problem processing carbohydrates. Is that, like, I know it's oversimplified, but is that basically right?
Is a sign of insulin, like you said, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, all related.
Yeah. So that's the thing to consider when you're looking at your blood work. And like Michelle said, you're checking. And tell us once again what the number is, or the letters, when we're looking at the liver enzyme on the test.
ALT and AST.
Perfect. Okay. So we got to be checking A1C, or ALT, AST, and triglycerides. Do you suggest people look at that?
Yes, definitely. But I mean, we can go to a whole new, I mean, you need to
Right.
look at your triglyceride, your HDL,
Yes.
and also the ratio. Very
I
important.
always teach people that. I tell them it's the poor man's insulin resistant test.
Um,
Should we talk
total,
about that real quick?
but I just want to, total cholesterol, doctors pay so much attention to it, but it's not really important. Is the triglyceride and HDL.
Yes.
Even when, even like LDL, when we start a lot of patients with low carb diet, they see a rise in LDL, but I'm always like telling them it's not a concern.
Because usually your HDL goes up as well.
Exactly.
And that's the thing I want to say. So HDL, Revers, is the good cholesterol. Well, I should say quote unquote. HDL is what we consider good. LDL is what is considered bad.
Yeah.
So, but like Michelle was saying, a lot of times when your LDL goes up, so does your HDL. Um, but what I want to talk, and I'm sure I've talked about this in a previous episode, but we might as well get into it here. You can take your blood work and compare your HDL number and your triglyceride number. And what ratio do you use? Do you use 1 to 1? Do you use 2 to 1? What do you use?
1 to 1.
Okay. So, and I think a lot of doctors will say 2 to 1, but I always tell people ideally we want 1 to 1. So, what does that mean? Whatever your HDL number is, let's say it's 80, then ideally you want your triglycerides to be 80 or less. Even better if the triglycerides are lower than the HDL. But a lot of doctors will say, 2 times, as long as your triglycerides aren't 2 times the amount of your HDL. But let's try to get that number closer together, right?
Yes. So I lost you for 10 seconds.
Oh, well,
Yeah, sorry.
okay.
But I'm sure whatever you said, it was right.
Yeah, but okay, I'm going to say this one more time, just in case maybe I didn't get recorded. So what you want is your HDL number to be the same as your triglycerides. So if it's 80, 80, yeah,
Sure, yeah. I mean, that would be amazing if somebody has that. Yes,
right.
yes.
Or and what I had said is, or if your triglycerides are even lower than your HDL, that's awesome.
That's
But
really good.
so
Yeah.
let's aim for that. I think a lot of people are saying like you just don't want your triglycerides 2 times the amount of your HDL. But I'm with Michelle. I think let's try to get those numbers close to the same, if
Like again,
possible.
we're like talking about optimal health. We want to be
Yes,
without any risk whatsoever.
I love that. Okay. Um, yes. So we touched on this before. And the number of people getting pre-diabetes that are living pretty healthy lifestyle, right? Like they're working out, they're eating healthy. So many people that come to me telling me, and I mean, these are people that are in my industry, even like other people that are trainers and fitness people, and they're like, I have pre-diabetes. I mean, I have my own theory, but what do you think is causing this? Why are people, because typically in the past, this was a lifestyle disease, right? This is what that was called. But now, why is it that people that seem to be living a healthy lifestyle getting diagnosed with prediabetes?
Oh my God, don't get me started. So I think number one is that people think they're eating healthy, but they're not. And marketers have become so smart. They have made us believe that fake food is healthy food, and they made us be afraid of real healthy food. And they also add sugar to everything. And people don't really, they only look at calorie content, they
Yeah,
don't read ingredients. I think
yeah.
that's number one.
And I think, too, to your point, that as we age, this is really for women. I think that we become more sensitive to carbohydrates, right?
We can't
So
tolerate as much. Yeah.
we can't have as much, and especially if you are losing muscle mass, right? Then you can even tolerate less carbohydrates.
Yeah.
So that's another, I think, an issue is that even if you're eating healthy carbs, all carbs turn into glucose, right? Which is goes into and becomes blood sugar. So that's something to keep in mind, that, maybe at 25, you could wolf down,
Yeah.
a whole wheat sandwich and some fruit and some healthy chips, whatever. I don't know. I can't think of
Yeah.
something else to say right now. And you were fine. But when you get to be 40, 45, 50, you got to really, and I'm not, if you're a perfectly healthy person, we've talked about this before, there's different categories when it comes to carbs. You can't just say, are carbs good or are carbs bad?
Yeah.
But if you're really healthy, you have no blood sugar issues, and you're like, Alicia, I don't have any of these issues, but you're 45, I'm still telling you, you better watch those carbs, and make sure they're fiber rich if you're going to be eating carbs, right?
100% agree. Yes.
Yeah.
Should we talk about stress here too?
Yes. Because
And we're talking about chronic stress here. Chronic stress. Chronic stress is detrimental to your health. It can lead to type 2 diabetes. It can lead to insulin resistant prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. 100%.
and the other thing that we have to keep in mind is, when Michelle says chronic stress, so, exercise is a form of stress, but it's acute stress. It's a one and done. And it literally trains your body to handle stress better when there's other stressful situations, right?
Yeah.
So the thing we have to keep in mind, though, is that stress doesn't just mean mental stress. So if you're not getting good sleep on a regular basis, right? That's chronic stress.
Yes.
Or if you're not getting enough exercise, and when I say exercise, Revers, I don't mean you have to go to the gym 5 days a week, but just get out and get a walk, move your body, because guess what? That's inactivity is chronic stress.
Mm-hmm.
Or like overly processed food, right? Chronic stress, dehydration. So you got to start to think of stress. It's a lot more than when we think of like, we're pissed off, we're having anxiety, we're like mentally stressed out. So that's something else to consider. And that's exactly what my whole take on the prediabetes number going up so high is, because stressors, and a stressful way of living.
Yes. I mean, I tell my clients every single day, find something that will help you manage your stress on a daily basis.
Yes.
On a daily basis. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Mm-mm.
Like you said, 10-minute walk.
I love that. I call that Zen monkey time.
I mean, walking is so underrated. Walking is so good for your body and your mind.
Did you hear that, Revers? See, it's not just me. Our expert over here says walk, walk, walk. So good thing you're walking right now.
And I don't want people to think that, oh, they have to like wake up and go for a walk for an hour. It doesn't have to be like that. Just 5 to 10 minutes.
Yes, 100%. And that's what I always say. There's no such thing as too short of a walk.
Yeah. And it's the best thing for your blood sugar.
Yes. See, Revers? Okay. Thank you for having my back on that, Michelle. This is something that a lot of people ask. And surprisingly, a lot of people ask me this that don't have diabetes.
Mm.
So a lot of people say, well, what is my blood sugar supposed to be?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought we could dig into that just so that people know when it comes to blood sugar. So let's say you're fasted. So like first thing in the morning, what is your blood sugar supposed to be? Well, we did kind of already hit on this, but let's say it again.
So we talk about it at your doctor's office, you're going to hear 70 to 100, but I'm telling you 70 to 90. If it's between 90 to 100, this is a red flag. You need to start making changes now. And it's a good time to make changes because it's not going to be that hard. And then, so obviously when you eat, your blood sugar goes up, but 1 hour for somebody who doesn't have any problem, your blood sugar should not go over 120. And by 2 hours, it should be back to where it was, below 100.
Okay. And this is really cool because so a new trend, which I dig, I love it, is people that don't have diabetes, and they're not pre-diabetic either, but people are starting to wear what these little devices, it's called a continuous glucose monitor, but we call it CGM for short. and they usually last for 10 days, and it measures your blood sugar. And so if you are somebody listening, this is good information for you to know. And so I'm going to repeat what Michelle just said. Fasted, so first thing in the morning, and this means before coffee, because caffeine can impact your blood sugar, right? Even
Yeah.
if there's no cream or anything in your coffee,
Some
caffeine
people are
can
very
for some
sensitive. Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So first thing you wake up, 70 to 90, and then an hour after you eat, it should not be above 120. And then
Yeah.
2 hours after you eat, it should go back down to that normal fasted number. So, Michelle, what do you think about non-diabetics or people that haven't been diagnosed with any type of blood sugar issue wearing these little CGM guys?
I mean, I'm a huge advocate.
I know.
I want everybody, everybody should use it because it's such a personalized way to find out how your blood sugar is. It gives you a window to see what your blood sugar looks like in the morning when you're sleeping, when you're stressed, the food you're eating. Because, I mean, I could eat rice and might not have any effect on my blood sugar, but someone else, it could really spike their blood sugar.
Yep.
So it's a great way to find out about your blood sugar, and it's amazing.
I love that you said that because and Michelle knows this already because I bitch about it to her all the time, is when people in out there that are like gurus on blood sugar, and I'll tell you what, as a type 1 diabetic, I know a thing or two about blood sugar. When they make it seem like when you eat this, fill in the blank, then this is what happens to your blood sugar. But like Michelle said, that is 100% wrong, because everybody, like, you might react to pasta you're very sensitive and your blood sugar goes way up, and then maybe I don't. Or like Michelle said, for me, for example, potatoes and sweet potatoes don't have a very high impact on my blood sugar. But I'm one of those weird people with artificial sweeteners, or I'm sorry, sugar alcohol.
Yeah, gotcha.
My blood sugar, my friend Tori, hey Tori, if you're listening, she's type 1. We got diagnosed within a year of each other. She can eat like Quest bars that are supposed to have, like, I don't know, 1 net carb, but they have sugar alcohol. Her blood sugar is not impacted at all. If I eat a Quest bar, my blood sugar will go sky high if I don't take insulin. So that just goes to prove to you that it's a very, like you said, individualized, personalized. You need to see how your body responds to different things because it's totally different.
And this way we can, and FDA just approved it. So starting this summer, you can buy it without a prescription. How amazing.
Oh my goodness. That I didn't know that. You see, we're all learning. This is awesome.
Yeah, FDA approved Dexcom. So you can buy it from pharmacy without any prescription. Hopefully it's gonna be a good price.
I was gonna say that's the one caveat, but even if you just did it one time a year or something as an experiment,
Definitely.
and it's funny, talking about stress. So there's somebody that works at Skechers that has, he wears a CGM just out of curiosity because he's like really into health and he just wants to know. And he came and told me one day that he was in this really high pressure meeting, and they had a big deadline coming up and they were trying to figure some things out. And he said, it's pretty stressful. And he said, oh my gosh, Alicia, I checked my blood sugar and it had gone up to 140. And I said, I know, that's the thing, is that stress impacts your blood sugar. And most people don't realize that. And so he said, oh my gosh. And it was like a light bulb moment for him. And so now he's like really into, spending some time breathing.
Right.
Like you said, Zen monkey time, right? Yeah. So go get one if you can. And we'll have to stay on top of the whole Dexcom thing. That's what I wear, and they're amazing. But that's cool that you can get them without a prescription. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
At least we are moving towards the right direction.
Preventative.
Yes.
Right? That's the thing. Not waiting until you've lost an aspect of your health to take action. Okay, this is what I think would be really helpful that I would love to talk to you about is I already touched on this earlier, how a lot of times people's doctor will say, oh, your blood sugar is a little bit wonky and you better start to watch out. But then people are like left confused. They leave their doctor's office like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. So let's pretend like I'm at my doctor's office and we're going through the blood work and my doctor's like, you know what, Alicia, your blood sugar, you're not pre-diabetic, but your blood sugar's a little bit wonky.
Uh-huh.
Um, I need you to start watching that so you don't become a pre-diabetic. So what is like one or two things that I could start doing immediately to have a positive impact on my blood sugar?
Okay, so the first thing that came to mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, CGM, but I want to give this person some tips that they can implement right away.
Yeah.
So first thing, eat real food. Like, cut out all added sugar, cut out processed carbohydrate. Also, prioritize protein. Your plate should look like protein, lots of fresh vegetables, which is fiber, and healthy, good quality fat. Very important. Just doing this makes a huge difference. You need to become a smart consumer. Pay attention to what you're putting in your body. Again, we mentioned this before. Start like instead of just looking at calories, look at the ingredients in a packaged food. They add sugar to everything nowadays. I mean, the package they says organic, no sugar added, and then you read the ingredients, and there's like 5 different type of sugar. There's like 200 names for sugar.
I
So
know they're so tricky.
yeah. Number two, practice intermittent fasting. And this doesn't have to be like crazy 24-hour fast, even not snacking between meals. That's intermittent fasting. That's so good for your body. You're giving like your body 4 or 5 hours of rest between meals. You have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if somebody is like snack eating like 4 or 5 times a day, what they can do is like a couple of days, cut out one snack at a time, and then just make sure, their body get used to it. That's number two. Number three, exercise. Walking and weight training should be non-negotiable. Make that non-negotiable in your life. Um, we
I
talk
love
about
that.
walking is so underrated, but it's so good for you. It's so good for your body, for your mental health, and your blood sugar. Um, Also stress management, good quality sleep, and hydration. A lot of times you feel like you're hungry, but you're really thirsty. So maybe next time you feel like you want to go grab a snack, have a glass of water and wait 30 seconds. And I promise you might not, even be hungry. And
Right.
also, I promise you, if you eat enough protein throughout the day, you're not going to be hungry an hour or 2 hours later.
That's what I wanted to mention is these feelings of being hangry. And I don't mean being hungry because that's normal. Like you're going to feel hungry or that's your body's signal like okay, let's time to eat, but I'm talking about hangry where you're like I'm going to probably rip someone's head off if I don't eat soon. That feeling or, major cravings or
Mhm.
being hungry when you shouldn't be or like Michelle said, 4 to 5 hours in between your meals and you're thinking I can't go that long without eating, that is signs of dysregulated blood sugar. And before I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, I was carb loading like nobody's business. I could not get enough carbohydrates and I had no idea what was going on. And luckily at the time, I was I was weight training a lot, hitting the gym a lot. But I mean, I just remember I was like eating Cheerios and I don't know, I couldn't get enough carbs. And when I got diagnosed with type 1, the endocrinologist said to me, I said, man, I've been craving carbs like crazy. I've been eating so many. And she said, yeah, of course. When your blood sugar is constantly elevated, you have major carb cravings. So the reason I'm saying this is because if what Michelle's saying to you sounds undoable because you don't think you can go that long, it's probably because your blood sugar is not balanced. And once your blood sugar is balanced, exactly what Michelle's saying, if my morning breakfast, I make sure I'm high protein and I can go for easily 5 hours without eating, not being hungry. So, okay. So that's a really good point. So, okay. So we're kind of hitting all the bases there and it's nothing new, Rever. Like what everybody was doing, our grandparents and great grandparents, Michelle's saying like live like they did. They had 3 square meals a day.
Huh.
They weren't snacking. They weren't like, oh, let me stop plowing the fields and go have a snack. Um, get good quality sleep. You got to deal with that. If you're not a good sleeper, like obviously we could do a whole episode on that, but
Yeah.
that's something that needs to be addressed. And remember, hydration. When you're dehydrated even slightly, that is a stressor on your body.
Yeah.
Eating the real foods. Just eat real food, and then you don't worry about the calories and all that jazz. And I love what Michelle said is quit looking at the calories so much as what are the ingredients, because I have people send me snapshots. I'm like looking for something and all I can find is water, of like, the nutrition facts,
Yeah.
and they're like, is this good? And I'm like, send me a snapshot of the ingredients and then I can tell you if it's good. I can't tell by that.
Mhm.
So yes, of course we want to make sure that the nutrition facts are, that it's got fiber, there's not a ton of sugar in the nutrition facts, but you got to read the ingredients. That's important. That should be another episode, huh? Like what ingredients to
We
look for.
could talk about that. I mean,
Let's
this,
do that. We're going to do that coming up because that's a good one. Um, so okay, so going back to the question of I'm at the doctors, they're like looking at my blood work, but now they're like, you're pre-diabetic. And because they're not going to do anything yet, you've got to exercise and eat better. And I'm like, what the F does that mean? So is it the same things that we just went over?
well, for this person, I do recommend checking their blood sugar. But let's say this person doesn't have the money to buy a continuous glucose monitor, or they hate poking their finger.
Yeah.
Exercise, stress management, sleep, hydration, even more important for this person. But when it comes to food, it's so important for this person to pay attention to ingredients again, because the yogurt they're eating, the pasta sauce, the shredded cheese, cut out processed carbohydrate. It makes such a big difference. Like instead of having pasta, bread, muffins, chips, all this, replace it with fresh vegetables and high quality fat like olive oil, avocado, nuts. And I promise you, you do this, and the next time you go to the doctor's office, you have a normal blood sugar. And also for this person, intermittent fasting is even more important. And I would recommend this person to even take it to another level. Maybe a few times a week, they can only have 2 meals a day and go a little bit longer. Because, fasting extends the period of low insulin level, and it also maintains the insulin sensitivity, and this helps reverse prediabetes. It's pretty amazing.
You know what? And something else I wanted to touch on, and I always, not always, but sometimes I bring it back to the effect it has on the body's ability to burn fat.
Mhm.
Because, Rever, you've probably heard me say this, but I want to make sure that we all know when you are having blood sugar issues, when you are insulin resistant, you need to allow your body to have a break from all that insulin. That is right how you can start to step back and reverse some of that damage. So when this advice, this is why I cringe when I hear this advice of snacking every couple hours, of grazing. If you're 23, that's probably fine. If you're an endurance athlete, you're going to need it. Maybe, there are certain people who can do that and who should do that. But for most of the rest of us, especially as you get to be over 35, over 40, this constant blast of eating means a constant blast of insulin. And now we know, because of what Michelle taught us, when we are having constant blasts of insulin in the body, eventually the cells start to reject it. And that is insulin resistance.
Mhm.
So when you have an insulin resistant issue, going these long stretches of time where your body is not being blasted with insulin, you're basically giving your cells a break. So you're helping them to become more sensitive again. And when it comes to fat loss, why this is such a big deal is because when our insulin levels are elevated, your body cannot use fat as fuel. So if you're snacking, right, Michelle, you're like, I'm going to eat here. I'm going to eat here. Look what's happening. Insulin is up. It's starting to come down, but now you just ate again. It's up again. It's starting to come down, and you see where it's going. Until it can come back down to balance, that's when the fat burning can happen. So again, this is not one size fits all, but if you are somebody with blood sugar issues, this is very important for you to undo some of that insulin resistance, right?
You know, the crazy part is that we're still telling type 2 diabetes that they need to eat every 2 hours.
I know.
And this is the worst advice you could give, especially to somebody who is type 2 diabetic.
You know, when I first got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, my diabetes educator, first of all, she did not have type 1 diabetes, which that just annoys me because it's so different living with it than reading about it in a book. And, you know, I told her I was in the fitness industry, and she's like, oh, you need to be eating way more carbs than you are. You need to be having snacks. I mean, and I was scared because I had just gotten diagnosed. So I listened to what she said, even though it made absolutely no sense to me. I was taking so much insulin. I felt horrible. I gained all this weight. After about 2 weeks of this, I was like, I'm not doing this. I don't care. I'm going to do my own thing. And I could, looking back, I'm like, what in the hell? She was telling me to have 3 meals a day with 75 grams of carbs each, and
Crazy.
2 snacks a day with 30 grams of carbs each. And I'm thinking back now, and I'm like, what the hell? I mean, you don't want to pump your body full of insulin all the time. It's just crazy. So yeah, it's so frustrating.
I mean, you're a fittest type 1 diabetic, I know. So I know people should listen to you because you are doing it right. Yeah.
Oh, thank
So
you,
proud.
Michelle.
Yeah.
That's so nice of you. You guys see why I love her.
But I just want to make sure that, like, you know, let's give them some example of what breakfast, lunch, and dinner would look like for somebody who's pre-diabetic. Because I
I
want
love that idea. Yeah, let's do that.
So, like, you know, I would recommend someone who is pre-diabetic for breakfast. You know, their breakfast should look like maybe egg with avocado or omelet, you know, just with veggies. Lunch would look like something like chicken breast over a salad. And dinner maybe would look like salmon with asparagus. This is
Yeah,
what the menu should look. And
I
they
love
can,
it.
if they need to, if they must snack, then they can have some almonds, you know, nuts, healthy nuts.
Yeah, I love that idea. I mean, I love that example. There you go. Michelle just made you a meal plan. So do it. Okay. And when you eat that way, like we were saying, your blood sugar is balanced. And it's not like it's going to happen in 1 second, but you will stop having all these cravings, and your energy stays level, right? It affects your mood and your sleep,
And your
right?
sleep. And
Yeah.
also, if you're able to lose weight, you're gonna feel good again. You're gonna have energy. Um, I promise you never want to go back to eating. Can I say shit again? You know,
Oh,
like,
yeah. These revers know I got a potty mouth. Don't worry. You know what? It's funny because when people talk about like McDonald's, it sounds so gross to me. Like I think like how could anybody even
yeah,
want to eat like, and I'm sorry if you're a McDonald's fan. I'm just saying that like junky crap food to me, it sounds horrible. I would rather have, like you said, like a nice grilled piece of salmon with a salad and some asparagus. Like that is making me salivate. My mouth's watering right now. And I think it's like you're bringing your body back to its natural state, what it wants, what it's supposed to have. And I think some people don't realize how shitty they feel because they're used to it,
yeah, no, 100%,
right?
yes, totally.
Okay. Well, I think that we've come to the point where I want to ask you something totally just fun, just for the hell of it.
So,
Um, if you are stranded on a desert island,
ooh,
what?
okay,
Yeah, and you can only take 3 things, and it not people.
okay. Hmm.
3 things. What would you take with you?
So definitely number one, my bug spray, because bugs love me, but I don't have the same love for them.
I never would have expected that, but that's really smart.
Number two, I don't want to take my phone. I probably would want to take my journal. that would like I feel like this is a good thing. I want to have this is a good thing for me to
I
not
love
have
it.
my phone with me. And number three, probably my bikini.
This is so awesome. I love those answers. No bugs on you, getting a tan, writing it all out. That's awesome. So I feel like we've learned a lot from you, Michelle, and I would love any of you revers listening that want to know more about Michelle, want to get really good information because she's constantly putting out really great content, especially on her YouTube channel. Where can the revers find you?
So if you go to my website, bellabehealth.com, all my socials are there, but I'm on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I just started a YouTube channel. And if anybody has questions, anybody needs help, I'm truly here to help people.
She really is. I have to say that. I can 100% vouch for this. I mean, she's really cares about this and really wants to help people. So I know that's true of you.
Passionate because I've seen what happens. I think I'm in a unique position, but I've seen what happens to the type 2 diabetic patients.
Yeah.
They have amputations, when they have kidney failure, they're already on dialysis. Some of these things are not reversible.
Yeah.
And, this could all be avoided if maybe they would have had the right information or they had the right support. So I really do truly care about this and I do want to help.
I love that. I want to mention, I'm going to link up your information in the show notes. So if you're watching this or listening to this, you can always just scroll down to the show notes and find Michelle's information down there. But thank you so much for being here. And I really do think we should do a future episode about what are the ingredients to avoid, what are ingredients that are okay, because sometimes ingredients have big long words and they're actually okay. They just sound scary.
Yes.
So that would be a good episode. But listen, Revers, I hope you learned a lot. I'm sure you did. And I hope you enjoyed your walk. Probably a long one today. We did a long walk today. Okay. Michelle, thank you so much for being here. And Revers, I will talk to you very, very soon. Bye. Oh, you're sorry, I cut you off. See? That's what I do.
Okay. No, just cut that part off. Sorry. Do you want to do that again?
No. It's okay. You're good. Don't even worry. All right. I'll see you, Michelle. Thank you. And yeah, there you go. Talk to you later.